And welcome everyone to the PCS Like a Pro show. I'm your host, Megan Harless, as always, and I am excited for you to join us today for this show. But before we get into all of that, I just want to talk a moment about claims. We're in that season, that time of year where we're starting to get a lot of questions in regards to claims. Everyone that's PCS this summer, now unpacking, getting stuff set up, hitting that 180-day mark and getting, those claims submitted and finalized. We're going to drop into the comments here for you so that way you guys can all go save it, reference it, review it later. The claim fact sheets from Transcom that is located on, what's that site? Military One Source. So we're going to get all of those for you just dropped into the comments. Like I said, go back, review them, save them. We've got the inconvenience claim fact sheet we're dropping for you, the regular personal property claims fact sheet that we're going to drop for you, and then also the fact sheet about if you happen to have mold within your shipment, what's supposed to happen with that, so that way you know how things are supposed to be handled. Because I think that's one of the biggest ones that we hear a lot of times is there's mold in our shipment. They took it back. I don't know where it's going back to. And they said somebody would call me and I don't know who that is. That fact sheet's going to walk you through what's supposed to happen, who to contact, who's supposed to contact you, and that process so you know exactly what to expect there. So if you've got questions about that, drop them in the comments. We'll answer what we can. We'll direct you to the resources and regulations that may be needed. But let's dive right into today because, like I said, I am super excited for today. You all may recognize my good friend here, MJ, who is joining us. You might have seen us around previously before. We're getting the band back together, at least for today, at least for now. So MJ, welcome to the show and thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm super excited. The band is back together. Even if it's momentary, dude, we're going to rock the house.
Yes, no, absolutely. So let's dive right into everything. Can you just take a quick moment first and tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I'm MJ Boyce, Marine spouse. Ura yuck kill semper fi.
Go Army.
Anyways, as I was saying, my husband retired about 3 years ago from the Marine Corps after 20 years of service, and I was along with the bride the whole time. We've got 2 adult children, Julie, who is 24, John, who is 21, and I also have a Mill Kid 2.0, and we will explain what that is here shortly. But I work for the Defense Health Agency as a consultant on the Military Health Genesis contract, which is the new electronic health record system that's coming your way if it hasn't already. So I figured, I like to help change on the outside. Might as well do it from within, don't you think? So
yes.
That's a little bit about me.
Yeah, no, definitely making change is what we're all about here. So first, let's start with this because we enjoy all of our PCS talk and you've PCSed several times. We're going to get through your experience here, but let's start off from the bat. Is Team Boyce, Team PPM, do it yourself, or are you team let's let the military handle it all?
So it's kind of a mixture of both, but not really. By default, like our moves have primarily been CONUS to OCONUS, back to CONUS. So I mean, can't very well drive myself across the ocean to Hawaii, as much as that would be cool. But if given the choice, honestly, we are team let the military do it. While we do like to have control over a lot of aspects of our stuff, we've helped other people prepare for Diddy moves or PPMs. Yeah, I'm dating myself here.
And PPM, formerly known as the Diddy. There's a rap song in there somewhere.
There is.
PPM,
write it down.
Formerly known as the Diddy.
But honestly, we would help people just load stuff in their truck when they would move, and it wasn't worth it. I was getting irate just helping them, and pizza and beer do not cut it anymore, people. It just does not.
There is a meme somewhere floating around. We're going to find it and get it posted in the comments for y'all later that says if you're over 35, hire movers. Like your friends don't want to slip disc for some pizza and some beer. Like if you're over 35, go hire some people to load for you.
That's clever. I like that. Yeah, so let the military do it. That's gonna be my answer, especially now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you're in a place right now where we all kind of want to be at some point that we are all striving for. And that is retirement and putting down some roots someplace, somewhere, wherever could be. So can you walk us through a bit of what your PCS experience was like over the 20 years that y'all were active duty, where you've PCS to, and what was some of that experience like?
Okay, so kind of married into this world at 19 because that's how we roll, and already had a little one. So did backwards things. So like, husband goes to boot, or well, have a baby. He goes to boot camp. Then we get married. Then I finish high school. Then we move for the first time. Now he was already there at Camp Lejeune. I didn't really have much. I lived with our parents, and I had some garbage bags full of clothes. That is, and all of my daughter's stuff. She was one, and we just threw it all in the car, and that was my first PCS. I don't think you could really officially call it that, but it was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I really would say that my first PCS, the way that I count it, where I'm with them and I move and the military moves me, I didn't know anything. And my husband didn't tell me anything, by the way, because we were 22, 23-year-old idiots. And he just said one day, hey, you got some movers coming because we have orders and they're going to move our stuff. So it can hopefully be there by the time we get there. And I'm like, huh? What? Yeah. He's like, oh, yeah. And you got to keep some stuff separate so that we have some stuff right away. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Like, I don't know any of this. And so it was a total, I can't say it on here, show, but you're picking up what I'm putting down. So that was my only experience. And of course, we didn't have much to break, but we really didn't. But I will say that the PCS from Hawaii back to the States to South Carolina, because we happened to accumulate stuff, while we were there for 3.5 years. I will say that was probably the most tumultuous move for several reasons. Number one, all of our beds got broken. All of them. All of our dressers got broken. Like, we had clothes in tubs for months. I didn't know anything about a claim. I don't know about claims. Again, husband doesn't tell me nothing. And at the time, I was an idiot. So I'm like, I don't think it's right, Chris, that they broke all our stuff and we have to go back out and buy it. He's like, well, we're supposed to, you didn't submit a claim. And I'm like, I'm sorry, that's a thing. Oh, you're awesome. And that 75-day window back in the day applied.
Yeah.
So I was well past that when I asked that question, like, are they going to pay for it? Well, didn't you submit a claim?
Not if you don't tell me, husband.
Like, there you go. That was the point where I'm like, bump this. I can't rely on you for information. This is like the 15th time. Whatever. Okay, it's cool. So I decided to school myself on some of this stuff and know more than he does and be the subject matter expert. So then maybe he'll keep up with me after that. And honestly, though, it became like a one team, one fight aspect after that. So our move to Virginia, we did a partial. So they took the majority of our stuff, but I did strap my Keurig in the seat next to me with a seatbelt because I was going to have that on day one. Okay. And of course, like, moving there, it was a lot. We drove 8 hours from South Carolina, and the unload and the unpack was interesting, and it took me a couple of years to do that, by the way. Which, yes, I don't know if you know this, Megan is a huge proponent, and I absolutely agree. Unpack all the boxes.
Yes, do it.
Yes.
You need, even if you open up the box and you look in and you see what's in there and you see that nothing is broken and you see like, okay, we don't need to unpack this. This is a box for storage or whatever it is. You need to at least open and inspect and make sure nothing in there is broken. Make sure it is actually your stuff that's in there. Because you'll be surprised. Like, I mean, and we've had that experience too, or we've had like these random boxes and they've just moved all over the country with us. And it's, oh, that's a whatever. And you shove it in the closet, you shove it in the corner, other stuff gets piled around it. And then at some point in time, we're just like, we need to go through stuff. Like, we need to downsize and clean out some. And you start opening stuff. And it's like, why did we move the stuff around with us for like the last 8 years? Like, we don't need it.
And I will
And
say
yeah.
that going from, so here's the thing. When we moved from South Carolina, Paris Island, shout out, to Marine Corps Base Quantico, Virginia, it's also the first time we've ever lived off base. Okay.
Mhm.
That's the thing. We've lived on base. Every single installation that we've been to, we've lived on base. But we also stayed in South Carolina for 8 years. So, usually we get to do the purge, the PCS purge. 8 years worth of crap, okay? And that was not fun. And so it was kind of, it's not like riding a bike. Every PCS is different, just like every kid is different. Some are ornery, some are sweet as pie. And then my last move is I didn't move. When my husband retired on 31 December 2018, we stayed here. I am still in the house that we had when he retired and when we got here because my son, my youngest, just happened to be in the middle of his senior year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's a lot of transition. I'm going to make one thing stay the same. I'm going to make one thing constant because I can do that now. And so we're going to stay put for a minute and we're just going to reevaluate every time we want. And here we are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We got a couple of people join us here in the comments. We got Isabel, yes to unpacking, at least opening, because she ended up with a bunch of garage boxes in their bedroom because they were labeled as shoes and clothes, and then having to take them back down 3 flights of stairs and out to where they needed to go. The other thing with opening every box and seeing is that sometimes like random things get packed together and we don't realize it until we're going to unpack some things. And there's so many times where we hear in the groups, like, I am missing this, this, and this. Like, it must be a box going missing. And we're just like, did you unpack every box? Did you check your holiday stuff? Did you open that up? Did you, that one box you think is labeled as whatever you may not need? Like, did you go check in that box? Because it's likely in there. If you moved empty suitcases, did you open your suitcases? Because I bet you there is probably something packed into your suitcase that they took on the truck with them. So definitely open up everything. At a minimum, just open it up, verify that it's yours, verify nothing is broken, and double check that the thing you're looking for is not buried in that box somewhere. It's like Christmas when we get our delivery and we're unpacking again. It's like, oh yeah, I need to find a new place to put this thing.
Oh yeah. I think for you, it's your little trees.
Yes. And now so if you guys don't know, I collect ceramic Christmas trees. I have 43 now. And now we're in a different house. And so it's going to be when I start unpacking them here in a week or two, where do I put them? Because different setup of house than where we were last year because we PCS this summer. And that whole fun of figuring out how do things fit and work in a new home, which is always a fun joy of everything. But yeah, so definitely open up everything. So with all the PCSing, are there certain things that you learned along the way that kind of helped you from that first or second PCS to when you made that last one to where you're at now? Loaded question.
It kind of is, but it's really hard. Okay, so first of all, prepping my house is a thing. I just was like willy-nilly the first couple times and I'm like, what? They come in, they take my crap, they leave. Like, what's the big deal? No. That's like a surefire way to have all your stuff like mixed up and like you have to be involved in the process. So I think I became a little bit more involved in the process. And I feel like it went smoother and it wasn't an illusion of control. It was like, I'm actually helping. Like, it's shake and bake and I helped, and so being involved, but also getting my kids involved. Like, hey, if you don't want your stuff mixed up with your brothers, I'm thinking that you might want to pay attention to your stuff and maybe just set it over here. Or if you want it to come with you, pack it in your suitcase now and throw it in the car. Like, stuff like that. Like being mindful of what's going to happen next now that I knew what was going to happen next.
Yeah. No, that definitely being involved in the process is something we tell a lot of families about and a lot of families to do. You don't want to just have the movers come into your home and then you sit on the couch and, catch up on Days of Our Lives or whatever, Grey's Anatomy, whatever it could be, dating ourselves a little bit here. Whatever it is that is your show, you don't want to just sit on the couch and watch that while stuff is happening in your home. You need to be involved in the process. Check on what's happening. Make sure they know what's high value, what's not, so it can be annotated on the inventories properly. If there's something that you want packed a certain way, don't just assume your movers are going to know that. You need to go and talk with them and let them know, like, hey, this is very special or valuable or whatever, or in the past it's been packed like that and it's, broken and we've had to have it fixed or replaced. Can we pack it a different way so that way maybe we don't have to claim it this time? And I find out too that a lot of times, like the crew members, they've got questions about stuff as well. How do you want, they want to know how you may want something packed, or they want to verify that something is going, or maybe they found something that was broken, you just didn't get rid of it somewhere or other, and they want to make sure what's there. So being involved, and also you have that ability to see what's happening. You have the ability to see how things are being packed. Double checking rooms when they say things are done, so that way you can verify, like, this room is done, everything is good. But yeah, definitely being involved would be one of the best things that you can do. And then so one of the struggles that we hear a lot sometimes with spouses in our community is figuring out who we are at each of our new locations when we go to PCS, and doing that personal transition kind of thing. So remote work, we know, for those that are career oriented or need a job, has really helped with that aspect. But how did you handle that self transition through the different life stages that you had through your PCS experience?
I mean, career-wise, like, I'll tell you this. Every single job, and I mean every single job that I have gotten in the last 20 years, has, no joke, been through networking. Networking has always been number one key. Like, no, it's not always been sunshine and roses, and remote work wasn't always a thing. When I started out, like, in Jacksonville, North Carolina, when it was like the old school Jacksonville people, like where there was like a mall, which wasn't really a mall. And unless you were a waitress or a stripper, you weren't going to have a job. So I was a waitress. And I mean, like, I had to work nights, and I would I'd come in at 5 a.m. I'd high five my husband as he's on his way out to work, because for childcare, right? And even if we could, we'd have to sit on the waiting list. So, I mean, like, I did what I could for a really long time. I just did a job because we needed money, right? And then when we moved to Hawaii, okay, I was unemployed for like almost a year until I started working at Starbucks. And then I stayed with Starbucks until we PCS'd again when we moved to South Carolina, where I was unemployed for like 6 months. And then something kind of magical happened, and I was introduced to freelance writing. I'm a pretty decent writer. You may have read some of my stuff here and there and everywhere. And I actually did a 4-year stint on a contract for Military Spouse Magazine as a digital editorial consultant. So I'd help find new writers and, help edit pieces, and so, but I mean, obviously I could do that from home. So it was, not only was I excited that I could get paid for writing about military life, which all of us live, and it's funny because it's true, literally, that's what I wrote mostly, but I got to help other people do it too, and I didn't have to go anywhere to do it. So when I moved, like, no, it wasn't a full-time job, but it was a great buffer between moving from South Carolina here to Virginia, where again, I was without full-time employment for another 5 months. And that was pretty much the last time that I was unemployed. And I have worked for the National Military Family Association as their staff writer. Shout out. I have worked for as a VA benefits briefer at Anacostia Bowling. So you'd see this mug going through your VA briefing and TAP class. This is the only mug you really wanted to see anyway. So boom. And then, I worked for Armed Forces Insurance. Boom. as social media coordinator. And then I started working for PCS Grades. And then guess what? I found my dream job.
Yes.
My dream job. And honestly, every step, even the steps that I'm like, why even bother doing this? Like, why am I doing this? Every single step I took led to the next step and the next step. And what ended up happening where I'm at right now, like I took my love for the military and the veteran community and my passion, because I haven't worked a job that it wasn't involved with that. And then I married it with my background on the medical side of the house, which is medical administration. I did some appeals and denials for insurances, but I was also an advocate for my child through the military health system. So I know everything there is to know about the military health system, because I stayed up on Saturday nights with a glass of wine reading policy, right? That's how we get better. That's how we become an advocate. That actually gave me the job that I had today. Who would have thought that advocating for something that's not okay in the military community would actually help you find a career? Like, right?
Yes. Like that is the dream for all advocates, is to take what we're passionate about and what we advocate for and being able to make that into like a really good, awesome paying job. So we got a couple comments here to go through real quick. So first, Isabel again, that the great advice to take the jobs, anything that presents, because they do lead to other opportunities, and you don't know what you're missing out on if you don't say yes. And we had Brian Alvarado on from Hiring Our Heroes a couple weeks ago, and one of the things is that it doesn't have to be the job and the career for now, but it could be the thing that helps you get that experience and helps you get your foot into the door of whatever company it is that you want to be a part of, and helps to get you that skill set and get known and get that face time to where you can move up. And so definitely don't be afraid of taking those jobs. We've got, let's see here, Christopher joining us, talking about, the DIY versus professional movers that we discussed. We got Destin joining us from Germany. Hey. And then we got Susie here, who was also worked at Starbucks for 5 years. And listen, I feel like we could totally do a show about Starbucks drinks, our favorites. Listen, holiday drinks are like coming out very soon. I just want to say, like the toasted white caramel mocha, or they're not bringing it back, the salted caramel mocha this year, but a lot of the Starbucks have the ingredients that they can make it if you ask for it. It's just not on the menu. It's like that secret menu thing. Just saying, those are a couple of my favorites. Add it with coconut milk instead of the regular stuff, and it's like a nice, good, balance of like healthy and fun. So just saying, we enjoy our coffee here. So we mentioned this at the beginning of the show. You talked about, the next generations of your family. And your daughter is now a new military spouse as well. So how do you handle just that in general, knowing your daughter is going through things that you went through as well? But has she PCS'd yet? Has she come calling and asking questions? How has she handled that? And how have you, having been through it, handled it as well?
So, I laugh a lot at her expense. I love you, baby girl, if you're watching. I know you're not, but I love you. I'm laughing with you, only you're not laughing, girl. No, it's comical because I feel like there's a certain amount of like, sometimes to be resourceful, you have to be without resources, and she can always come to me and ask the questions. But if she doesn't, and knows that she should, or knows the other resources available and doesn't do it, well, that's on you. So thanks for the comedic timing. You know what I mean? As far as PCSing, so right now, he actually just re-enlisted. Congrats, Kyle, to my son-in-law. Yes, my daughter decided that I made military spouse life look so cool, she joined our club, okay? And then she decided to promote me to a Mimi at the age of 40, right? So I was already struggling, but now whatever. But I love him. He just turned 2, Caden with a K, all day. And I'm about to get another notch in my belt as a Mimi, because we've got Mil Kid 2.1 coming in end of January. So military family, she's literally pulling pages from my playbook, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, let me tell you about the things that you should pull out of that playbook and not do. Okay. And when it came to PCSing, it kind of went the same way. Like, most of her crap is still here, Because what I didn't even know is they didn't get married till he was already at his base. Her and the baby weren't on his orders. So the military isn't going to move her stuff from here in Virginia out to Hill Air Force Base in Utah. Shout out. They're not going to do it. It's on our dime, the first one. But as long as everybody and everything is there before they get orders to their next place, well, then that's okay, right? So right now, their apartment, living off base, their apartment is teeny tiny, very teeny tiny. Can't even put a couch in there. So all her stuff is still here. By the way, they're actually here, hanging out for a little while. So that's cool. And so yeah, it's going to be for her the same way it was for me, which was the first one is kind of weird because I'm just like bringing like my clothes and like my son's toys, whatever, right? But the next one is going to be when the people are coming in your house and they're taking your stuff, so you better be ready. Thankfully, though, as a military kid who has moved, she is aware of what to do and what not to do. So she's probably 4 steps ahead of where I was when I was in her shoes the first time. And so she does come asking for help and assistance. Does she listen every time? I'm her mom. No, she ain't gonna listen to me. So, and if it's something really dire, do you know what I do? I'm like, hey, Megan's got your back. Megan's got your, like, do you want me to ask her? I can literally give her the same answer that you would, but if I say that the answer came from you, then it counts. So, I mean, but that's just kids in general, I think.
Yes. I will say that's not just her in general. I've heard from several other members of the group that's just like, listen, I've had to use your name to my husband to get him to realize like this is what we need to do for our PCS. So I am happy if you need to throw my name out there, like Megan told us to do this and Megan says that this is what we should do. Totally do it. It's all okay. They can come at me. It's fine. We're just trying to help make PCSing easier. And if you need to say Megan says we should pre-pack and Megan says we should purge this, like it's totally fine. Just have at it. It's all good.
Oh yeah. We're definitely going to play the game of Megan says.
Yes. Hey, that'll be great. We're going to make that into a game coming to you soon. So you've lived at several different locations, had that experience. Do you got a favorite duty station and why?
I was really thinking about this question. And honestly, I've been asked it and answered it several times in the past, and my answers do change. It's very, very weird because every duty station has its merits. And so I have to look at like the duty station and not the experiences that I had at the duty station. That's the separation, right? Like if I look at a duty station based not on experience, like I'm going to say Hawaii. Hi, I lived in Hawaii for 3 years. Suck it, But, I mean, who gets to say that? But I also couldn't afford to fly home but once a year after taxes came in, right? After we got our refund. And it was kind of hard. You got island fever sometimes. You can only go around the thing, so many times before you're like,
and then you got to turn around and go the reverse way.
Right. I loved it. But like not being able to move about was hard. Okay, so like if I were to say something based on experiences, I loved South Carolina. And it might have been because that's the longest we stayed anywhere. We were there for 8 years. I got to move up in a career there. I got to move up a ladder where everybody else is getting orders the second they get their dream job. You know what I mean? Because hi, Murphy. But
go away, Murphy.
Right. Peace out. Okay. So I really love it's a smaller town. I love the tight-knit community because those smaller towns where there's not a huge conglomerate of stuff to do, you rely on each other because the one resource that the military can never cut out of the budget or take away is each other. And that is what I learned when I was there. So experience-wise, I would have to say Beaufort, South Carolina.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one of the things I like to ask every military spouse I have on our show as we wrap up as a good way to close out is, do you have a piece of advice that you would want to pass on to other spouses?
Yes. And everybody get out your pen and paper and write this down. So PCSing is a transition. And we've got to, like, you see statistics on people get divorced because of renovations. People have marital issues when they move. We do it all the time. Like that's our life. Hi. But the one thing that I would say is it's kind of twofold. There's no guarantee that your life wouldn't be a logistical nightmare if the military wasn't involved. So if you just straight up look at it like this is our life, like this is our life, and it's different from everybody else's. But do we know if it's worse or better? Like that mindset, looking at that reframe is key to at least stay sane some days. But I would also say that every single one of us are military spouses, and not all of our service members have the same thing in common. Every single one of us is military families, and every single one of them are going to leave military service. They're going to experience a transition, a final transition that is very, very different. And I've gotten asked a lot of times, I've written tons of articles, I've been on tons of panels. And the one thing that I will say is I get asked is, when should people start planning for transition out? And I say, day one. How about yesterday? How about 5 minutes ago? Because like, it sounds dumb. Oh, my husband's only been in for 4 years and he's going to go ahead and do 20. I'm not even kidding. Sometimes you don't always have that choice. So let's just go ahead and prep beforehand. Just kind of like that PCS prep we were talking about. Like it's like when it comes to transition, you start having the conversations now, because you don't want to end up at the end of the career with a very large reintegration. Okay. Because that's what it is. Looking at each other, thinking that you were going to be working and I was going to be staying home, or vice versa. And you never had a conversation with that plan in mind. And that plan will change as you move through life. Have that conversation, check in about those things all the doggone time. I thought we were going back to Michigan. I was like, it's my time now. It is MJ's world. It is me. Do me, boo-boo. It's going to be all about MJ now. And my husband's like, hey, I still live here. And I don't want to go back. And that was, there was nothing there for him in his career field. So like that conversation came at the tail end of his career. We should have had that years ago. You know what I'm saying? So have them now, even if it's just a casual conversation. It's better to say, what if, than what now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it helps to set those realistic expectations as well, as to when that time comes, where do you each sit as to where are you going to, who's doing what kind of deal. I know some people are like, they're close to that end stage and they're like, I'm going to wait and finish up my schooling or whatever when he's out. So that way he can help handle kids and all the errands and stuff. And I can be able to focus on that and not have to, take one class here and one class there. Or I know other people that are waiting to take a promotion or another position in their career field until that retirement or until that leaving service happens. That way they have more flexibility of traveling with their job and doing other things as well. So being able to talk about it now really does help set those expectations as to when the time comes, what is happening, and helps you both get more onto that same page as to what's going to happen and what to plan for. Really goes a long way. And us, we enjoy planning here. We enjoy a well-laid plan. Even if you're going to wing it, you need to plan how you're going to wing it. So that way you got a little idea there. But yeah, definitely, as MJ said, talk about it and start thinking of what it is you want to do before that time comes. Because there's nothing worse than day one waking up as a civilian and being like, oh, what now? Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you right now, it rocks my world. Think of reintegration after a deployment, right? That the first 3 years after leaving military service as a family is like a 2 to 3 year reintegration, honestly, depending on how long the family's in, right? So 20 years, I was not used to having my husband home every day, and I love it, and I love him. I'm one of those weird people who actually like co-working, like from home together when we can. Like, that's kind of cool. I was never able to do that before, but there is such a thing as too much here. When I've finally gotten used to some, like solitude and being by myself and comfortable being, and sometimes even liking it, and then that going away, that was interesting.
Yeah, when you're in that routine, when you hit that, if you do the whole life career, you hit that 20 years, you're in that routine of, that just life off tempo. They're deployed or on a rotation, they're home for a little bit, they're going to the field, we're PCSing, they're on a deployment rotation, rinse and repeat. And then suddenly you don't have that, and they're home all the time, and you're home all the time. And it's just like, somebody's got to do something, and we got to go somewhere. And do you have a work trip? Because I don't know what to do with you here. um, I hear it from a lot of people. They're just like, I don't know how to handle things, because they never did have that conversation beforehand as to what's going to happen. I know there's some folks who decide they want to take a gap year after leaving service. They want to be able to have that year to just relax and figure out what it is they want to do. I know some people that have been very successful with that. And, during that time, they've maybe dabbled in something here or there to figure it out. I know several that went into real estate during that gap year, deciding that's what it is that they wanted to do. I know other people that, would have a job, something lined up, 6-9 months before they even left service, before they even started terminal leave, just because they knew what they wanted to do and they wanted to ensure that they had it lined up and together. So definitely a good conversation about, that expectation of what it is you guys want to do. Does your spouse want to work another, job for the next 20 years and then retire with a second pension? Does he want to just work part-time to have something to do, but he doesn't really need to work another full-time job? But just, yeah, having that conversation is definitely needed.
And I do want to say, I give my husband a lot of crap sometimes, but I'm really proud about how he handled transition. Like, I was all anxiety about it for like years prior. And he kind of he didn't have the sense of urgency, which bothered me, but he still kind of took care of it. It really bothered me. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. But this is what he did. He literally was like, I busted my butt for 20 years. He took 9 months. He went to school. So thank God we had BAH, to cover our rent and stuff. But I'll say this, he focused, he went hardcore, he went into a totally new career field, but he still works on the same base as a contractor, just on the cyber side. It's a totally different MOS, but he gets to work with the Marines every day and have a beard and wear civvies. He was living the dream. I know what I want. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to bust my butt until I do. And I'm proud of him. He handled it like a boss.
Yes, go Chris. And I will just say, I think we've kind of proven it that there are those, me, you, whatever way I'm pointing here, that worry about what comes next, because I'm totally in that boat. I'm just like retirement is soon. What are we going to do? Where are we going to live? What are we going to do for a job? Are we going to have the money? What are our kids going to do? And then our husbands, mine and yours, are just like, it's all right. We'll figure it out. It's fine. And I'm just like, can you? So the panicky planners marry the cool, calm, whatever, and they just marry each other and figure it out.
Yeah,
it's kind of where we're at. And then we got Isabel here that we were talking about, the what if and not what now, figuring out, Phyllis, that those realistic expectations, because you guys, you decided that, well, you figured out you were staying, your move back to Michigan was not happening. And other people, they've got plans that they're going to move either home, maybe not home, but they're going to move somewhere, or they're going to move, for a job, and maybe not necessarily for leisure or their dream place. And when you go to do that final move, what does that look like too? And so being able to have that expectation. Are you going to build your house and put your stuff in storage for a year? Are you going into another house immediately and having everything move with you? So yeah, definitely some good conversations that everybody should be having. As we see Destin in the comments too, that they've been talking about it a lot. So yeah, definitely everybody should be talking about it as well. So MJ, thank you for joining us today and taking time out of your busy schedule to be here.
Thank you. No, I'm super glad. I'm super stoked to see you all. You better catch this on the replay and share with at least 2 other people, because that's what I'm about to do. I'm about to drop it in my work teams group. Because there's everything that we talked about, because it's not a secret. Megan and I are friends, but it doesn't matter, because the things that you have to sometimes hear your life through somebody else's face to be like, oh wow. So like if you know somebody who a lot, you know, who has a similar story to Megan, who has a similar story to me, or maybe even my daughter, because apparently we're all on that track. You know, shoot them this way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And then to end this right here with Jamie about that final move giving anxiety, since his options are so wide right now. Definitely hear that, because I mean, it's, you have that choice now that you can do anything and you can go anywhere. And it's just like, what do you mean I have a choice on where we're moving to? Like what do you mean I don't have to list it and give some, you know, wait for somebody to tell me where? So definitely feeling that, Jamie. Yeah.
Shout out Jamie. I know Jamie from Beaufort, by the way. And she's just keep talking to your husband, girl. Maybe that'll help your anxiety a little.
Yeah. I like to do, in our family, we like to do the pro-con list of options and lay things out that way to figure out, you know, like where on the totem pole list, ranking list are we going to put things and everything. But definitely we're trying to figure out all of that as well. And then Isabel sharing hers as well, that her spouse 21 and wants to keep going until he obsolete or not having fun anymore, which I think is for a lot of folks to do this until retirement, or it's no longer fun, or they're too broken to get through it, or one reason or another. So definitely. But yeah, so thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, MJ, again, for taking time out of your busy day. Everybody else, thank you for joining us. If you're in the middle of a PCS, fingers crossed it's going smoothly. If you've got questions, issues, concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out. And we are happy to answer your questions and help guide you where you need to go. Additionally, join us again next week, same time, same place. We're going to have another great show. We're going to be talking to Monica Bassett and her PCS experience, and then what she is also in the weeds doing and supporting our community with. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you then.